So, everybody here will have experienced their sense of appreciation and gratitude. Just before I left home, and I'd already put this together, I heard a gentleman on BBC4 radio, the serious one in England, and he was being interviewed about a book he'd written. His father was an early ecologist in Tasmania. But the thing that he said, which I really liked, because there's so much hype in media these days, we all know, and he said, but everybody, every individual in the world, rich or poor, has a story. They've got their life that they're grateful for. And you know, so many coincidences, as we all know, and of course I'm grateful. Oh, that's my subject today. And I loved what he said. Because, you know, we don't really live in that world of celebrity. We live with our feet on the ground, and that's really so much healthier. So my idea of appreciation and gratitude, and I call it the app we really need. I discovered that Cicero, way back then, before Christ, he wrote, gratitude is not only the greatest of virtues, but it's the parent of all others. Wow. And when I came across this, I didn't know that it was a virtue, but it does seem to be the right word. This is my experience of appreciation and gratitude. I think it has a subtle vibration. It works on a vibratory level, which expands exponentially and fills our environment, our body, our mind, our relatives, neighbours, friends and associates, and maybe even politicians if we do it often enough. It fills them with a different quality of vibration, and that starts to change everything. I feel it's a fundamental form of nourishment, something we take in and give out all the time, in the big view of life. And as it says on the back cover, the first version of what is macrobiotics, it has been practiced in all cultures and all traditions. How many of you have been in a country or culture where people just constantly say thank you to each other? They laugh all the time. They put their hands together and they say thank you. You don't have to put your hands together to say thank you. But have you been in that culture? I'm sure some of you have. You get lighter and lighter and lighter. Of course, there's another side to it. However clever we are hardly conscious without gratitude. Ways to show gratitude when greeting. Before we lived in cities and we had great empty tracts of land, and first you see someone approaching in this whole, what we call a wilderness today, but there's nobody else there. It's you and the person, or your group and the person over there. And you can almost feel the vibration of there's another human being. And in Ladakh they go, Joulet, Joulet, big smile, there's another person. And they feel that quality of heart. Kikuyu, the Maasai go, Kwaheri, Kwaheri. And this great hand waves, and we say hello, and there are many others. So using some judgment and a little discrimination, of course, when we do meet those people in the middle of nowhere or in the middle of a big city, we can shake hands, we can hold arms, we can rub noses, we can touch foreheads, we can kiss cheeks, and we can place our hands together and bow, because we recognize the Buddha in us and in the other person, and it's totally reciprocal. I was going to ask you all to take a moment to choose one of those to share with your neighbour, but I think everybody here has done a lot of it in the last few hours, so we don't need to repeat it, but you can feel it in the air. So this big view is infinite. I think the importance of infinite is extraordinary, but as you know, in science today and in many other ways, it's a big question as to whether it even exists. But I think it does. We go back thousands and thousands of years in evolution, and for us to manifest here is both ordinary and incredibly extraordinary. And for that in itself, the quality of gratitude is boundless. But I don't know how much it is felt today. It probably is, but can it stay inside? Many teachers that I have heard, including Aveline and Michio, ask us to remember, to recall. In other words, to put together again in our own selves, our structure, our millions of years of life force and evolution that's brought us to this place. And when we remember, because we often forget, when we remember, something happens inside. And it happens on a very deep level, and it's very subtle, and we don't talk about it very often, but I think we all know what it is, and it's that extraordinary sense of gratitude. We are an integral part and not separate of this quality of eternity. And we all know how important that is today, because we are totally joined with our environment, which is why I said appreciation and gratitude in the environment. It's not separate, it's one, and I believe that oneness is incredibly healing. We're not separate, we are a tiny star for a few years. How much gratitude can we have for that privilege? To have the opportunity to use our five senses, our limbs, our muscles, heart, voice, brain, in rhythm, with moon, sun, air, earth, water, and all other living things. And how many articles have you read and people you know that actually the lack of ability to do all those things is the basis of many, many neurological and psychological so-called illnesses today. It's precisely that those aren't there. So most people who have transformed a harmful habit, an illness, accident, misconception that we've had, a judgment, and we've achieved this transformation through a sense of gratitude and appreciation in some form. And actually, as we all know, it's not always pleasant getting there. It really isn't. Is that needed? You know, and actually, it's profound and hard work making these little changes, isn't it? And in that is that quiet, unspoken humbleness that completely turns it around, and then the vibration that's going around is different. And the other day, maybe because I'm getting graciously older, I was crossing Regent Street and I stood on a wobbly manhole and I thought I was going right in front of a bus. And the young man next to me, I put up my hand and he caught my hand. And I said, oh, thank you. I mean, it was really thank you so much. And he said, I don't know how I did it. And I said, good training. So I think his mum and dad had been paying attention. I was really glad he did. Gratitude has grace, pleasure, tolerance, empathy, and knowing the big picture in tiny everyday things. In each of us, and recognizing that miracle. Quietly acknowledging, sometimes surrendering. The highest occurs in the most everyday. This makes a vibration that when many feel it, honours the world happily and humbly. So that honouring we also walk around with. And you feel it when you walk onto a train, don't you? And sometimes someone opposite you has it, peculiarly enough at that moment. Just kind of just give a little smile. So that's gratitude for me. My experience is that gratitude is like sacred geometry, creating a dimension and beauty and structure in ourselves, our psyche, our soul. In its humbleness, I think it reveals a quality of truth about our place in the world and the world in us. A latitude and longitude dancing together. Have most of us communicated closely with, I know somebody here who has, with an animal, a pet, or an animal in the wild? When we have no fear, and they have no fear, there is what could be described as an infinite gratitude, very delicately passing between them, back and forth. I saw my father do this when he spoke to horses, and I stood in awe. No, you've all seen it with somebody. There's such respect in there. My father and generations before us did this without thinking about it. I believe this is a vibration of appreciation, understanding and gratitude. It brings relaxation and alchemy to our system's circulation, nervous, immune system. The result is self-trust, inner confidence, belief in others. There is less emotional conflict and less intellectual confusion, so it may encourage a harmonious life, politics and peace, full coexistence. Peace does not mean apathetic. It means filled with vitality and joy. I am me, not this is mine. It means all human beings have confidence in their own innate ability to be human. His Holiness the Dalai Lama said some years ago, "Is that true? People in the West don't believe in themselves?" He couldn't believe it. People have traipsed from Tibet across the Himalayas and down to safety in India with full confidence, being beaten out of their own home, but the West didn't know who they were. He really had such compassion for that. It was extraordinary. And we all know there are many, many people who come to our counselling and they lack self-confidence. Breastfeed a baby. How much unspoken gratitude goes into that exchange between mother and baby? I don't know, we don't know, but it's very different to being bottle fed. Okay, this is what I wrote. Gratitude for what the universe has put here around us. I believe it is the opposite of fear, and it circulates endlessly, awakening the life force in everybody. For the work many of us here do is being grateful for the opportunity to be with each client and each group that we come to and what they can teach us. And some of the people that I looked at for this was particularly Bruce Lipton in his book Beyond Belief, where he says, actually, he goes beyond his gene theory, and he says cells have an amazing function. They have to, every single 1,000 cell in our body has to react to an impulse from the outside environment before it in turn simultaneously reacts. That's fascinating. So that is scientific evidence. He's a good scientist and he's a good heart as well. William Bloom in the endorphin effect. So he's a lovely English teacher, but the endorphin effect is what makes our body feel good and happy. I'm not good at science, so I'm not going to give you any terminology like that. But this effect changes people's health. It helps change health as much as we know food changes health. But I think all these things go hand in hand, especially just asking for the beauty of a client to come out and be their authentic selves, and actually not telling but encouraging them to go, oh, I'm good at that, so I can apply that which I know I'm good at to this new idea that you're giving me, how to change my food, some new lifestyle changes. You see, I think it's a lot to do with the trust and the gratitude there. And a book that I love is by Michio Kushi, The Book of Doin. And my own response to that is early days I had worked myself to a shred in a macrobiotic restaurant, I think. And I loved every minute of it. And I woke up one day, and I've been doing this for a long time, you were around, And literally a voice said to me, no, you don't have to go to work, you've got to stop. I mean, it was a voice. And I went, well, I have to stop because I can't even speak. So it was burnout, I think. And I just picked up the book of Zoe, and I found a wonderful chant. And so I just want to put in brackets here. I do think sound and chanting does not, it can be any language, it can be any country, any culture. But sound, language that comes out from us, wherever it is a form of appreciation and gratitude. And if you cast your mind back, it's only recently, for example, in Hungary, where until last century, when it came to eating time, people would go to the table and sit in silence. And then they would talk afterwards. Probably some of you know that. And I once sat with a gentleman who was doing that. He said, do you mind? But this is what we do. We go and sit in silence and then we come back to talking. Very interesting. So many things we've forgotten. So I did this particular chant for 2 weeks, about 10 times a day. I wasn't really able to eat. And as I said, I couldn't talk, but I could do this chant. I got much better. And so I like using sound and chanting as part of our diet. And that's really what I can say about gratitude. And in gratitude, I don't know if we did any exercises today. Don't worry, I'm not going to do any of them. But there was something, when I first heard and saw Michio start something which he would always do, could we all do it together? Because it's a nice stretch as the afternoon starts, and he would always do this to start off. And you can open the rib cage, this part, and the shoulders are relaxed, and we're opening our arms to heaven and feeling the ground below us, and then he will just let us out and start. So, thank you very much.